Thursday, May 7th, you are watching the Sick Podcast. Trust the process. Oh boy, do we have a lot to break down yet again today. Things are ramping up across the hockey world. In the NHL, we're well into the second round. The Montreal Canadiens played their first game against the Buffalo Sabres. They dropped that one 4-2. We're going to talk about that and the other series as well. The Laval Rocket forced game number 5 with a 4-0 win in Toronto. That'll be Saturday afternoon at Place Bell. We're going to talk about that. The CHL playoffs are down to the finals. Which teams will make it to the Memorial Cup? We're going to break it down. The NHL Draft Lottery happened. Boy, did it happen. That was something. We're going to talk about that. Snake's got a hot take. We've got a mailbag question. It's going to be a crazy show, and it all starts right here, right now.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Trust the process. The sickest NHL prospect podcast with Snake and Shayne.
With the 5th overall selection in the 2024 NHL Draft, the Montreal Canadiens are proud to select Ivan Demidov.
It's gonna be sick.
That's right. Producer Shayne here, joined as always by my co-host Simon the Snake Boisvert. Snake, how are we feeling today?
I'm doing fine. And you, Shayne?
Doing excellent. Doing excellent. Listen, this is, as I mentioned before, the best time of the year, hockey-wise. So much happening, so much good stuff, so much good hockey as well. The playoffs are well underway. So many great storylines as well. But we have to start, obviously, in Buffalo, where the Montreal Canadiens played their first game of the second round. We have a lot of Habs fans that listen to the show, so we're going to get right to it. They dropped the first game 4-2. Overall thoughts on the game and the series so far, Snake?
Well, I think so far, yes, Buffalo is a big, strong team, but they also showed a lot of speed. I don't know how many 2-on-1 or 3-on-2 that there were during the game. I think maybe 3 or 4 of them. And the fourth line, as we discussed on Monday, was like pretty crazy. I mean, the few minutes that they played, I remember one sequence where they practically controlled the puck for 1 minute in the Habs territory. We're talking about Greenway, Kozak, and Malenstein. So I think overall, and unfortunately, we haven't seen Cole Caulfield very much in the playoffs, and the sequence continued yesterday in Buffalo. He was pretty invisible. So I think overall that's my take on the game yesterday. The Sabres have a very, very good team.
Yeah.
The Habs didn't get beaten by some Joe Schmo team. I mean, this is a very, very good team.
I mean, the record proves it, right? They've been the best team in the NHL since December.
Yeah.
It's a pretty significant sample size. And
I think Kevin Adams, the former GM, should get a lot of job interviews.
Oh, boy.
If he hasn't already. Because that's his team, except for maybe one trade that Kekalainen made. That is his team. And he's the one who identified at some point that, you need a quick team, but you also need a strong team. And that's what he did when he made those trades to get Ryan McLeod, to get Josh Doan. So it gives the Sabres great balance on their top 9. You have a little bit of everything.
Of course.
Yes.
That third line.
Guys, that third line. Yeah.
My goodness.
So it's not like, honestly, it's hard. Usually it's easy to identify the top line on a team, the third line, because they all have an identity, or there's a skill level that really differs from one line to the other. But I have to say that 1, 2, 3, who cares? You just roll the lines.
Exactly. And to be honest, their worst line was the first line.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. So that's why the Sabres don't only rely on one line. which is often the case for teams. And that's why those teams, if you shut down the main line, then you're okay. You can win the game. With the Sabres, you can't. And the fourth line is probably one of the best, if not the best, fourth line in the NHL.
It makes a difference. I think that's what you want your fourth line doing. And they got a bit of a greasy goal there. Dobesh probably wants that one back, but the goal's a goal. And you know what? Carrier also might have defended Greenway a little harder there, kind of let him take the shot. But regardless, overall, Snake, if you're a Habs fan watching game one, listen, I'm an eternal optimist. That'll never change, right? But I'm not that worried, to tell you the truth. Did the Habs deserve to lose game one? Absolutely they did. Were they outplayed? No. Not even close. No, not even close.
They even got way many more shots on goal.
Yeah.
And I look, if they win the game on Friday night, then it's a best of 5. Habs would get home ice advantage for whatever it's worth. I know it was 4-1 until the end of the game, and I spoke with a lot of pessimistic fans, or texted friends and everything, and they were pretty discouraged after the first game. Look, what I told them is I still see the Sabres winning the series. That was my prediction from the start, but it's not like they're totally outmatched.
No.
And again, maybe it's I'm seeing it with the glass half full, but I'm how I am, very objective, whether it be the Habs or the Ducks or whatever team. The goal, I think at the beginning, probably for management, but especially for fans and observers, was that the Habs win at least one series, and they did.
Job accomplished. Yeah.
Job accomplished in that sense, and I think that the rest is a bonus. Any game they win, any series they win, it's a bonus. And it's a nice run, and it's the prelude to many, many great years ahead. But in my book, I thought they had met their match. We'll see.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like, the series is still very young, and Snake, I think you bring up a good point in kind of contextualizing this series for the Montreal Canadiens, because since 2022, they've improved every single year.
Yes,
that is a great sign for the rebuild, right? You're being told now that it was a success, and that it is a success, and that stick to the plan, trust the process, right?
Yeah,
might not win the cup this year, but you're trending towards it. You're making big steps towards being a contender,
and you also know, and management gets to know what they need to get to the next step.
You're getting a lot of answers. Correct.
You're getting more answers in the playoffs than during the regular season. This is where you get a lot of answers. They had some answers last year against Washington. Now they see what happened with Tampa. Now they see what happens with Buffalo. And I think at some point it becomes clearer as to what they're missing. Whereas during the regular season, you can always, not that you can dream, but I'll take the San Jose Sharks, for example. The San Jose Sharks are missing a lot of elements before they can contend for the cup, but they have a great basis of young players.
Yeah.
But how will Celebrini do in the playoffs? How will Will Smith do in the playoffs? They don't know. So I think in my mind, the Sharks are like that. What the Habs were last year. Next year, you want to at least make the playoffs.
That's it.
And then you can see, okay, this works, this doesn't work. We need this, we need that. And so great experience as the Habs go further and further. Probably a must-win game tomorrow. It's a cliche, but it's because if they lose, then they have to win 4 out of 5. It's going to be hard to win 4 out of 5 against Buffalo.
Yeah, going down 0-2 in a series is never a good thing. But the Habs, however, have been one of, if not the best team in the NHL this season after a loss. I believe they're 11-1 or something like that in recent games. I forget the stat, but point is they bounced back really well. And I think, the fact that they actually played well in game one, like, it wasn't a bad game from Montreal. It was a game of mistakes, right? I mean, Hudson trips on himself on the first
Yeah.
goal of Buffalo, right? How often does that happen? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, it's these little tiny mistakes that Buffalo was able to capitalize on. Overall, I can't say that they dominated, not even close. So I think the Habs have, a good idea of what to expect now in game two, right? Game one was a feeling out process. And look, it was also a bit of a letdown game because they won a very emotional, taxing series in 7 games
Mhm.
against Tampa Bay. Whereas Buffalo won it in 6. They had more time to rest. They were at home. Just everything was in Buffalo's advantage for game one. Game two, however, Habs could really flip the script here. So listen, for all those pessimistic Habs fans,
But
hold off a
Buffalo
little bit.
is
Hold
big and
off.
fast. Buffalo is big and fast. So it's a tough matchup for the Habs. But you are correct that Buffalo's first round series was much easier than the Habs series. The Habs series was crazy
Significantly.
because you can never relax. When you have these 7 1-goal games, you can never relax. It's over 420, well, plus overtime. It's maybe 450 minutes of intense hockey. Whereas I don't think a team led by more than 2 goals once in the series. Whereas,
A little bit for the Habs in game 4, I believe.
yeah,
They led by 2 and they lost that game.
Yeah, exactly. So whereas Buffalo, some games were easy for them, some others were not that close. So although it was a 6-game series, I don't consider that Buffalo had a very tough series against Boston. I don't think so.
Yeah.
So maybe you're right. Maybe that first game is just a matter of getting back on their feet.
Yeah. I saw it coming on the Habs tonight pregame show. I was the only one who predicted a loss yesterday. I knew that one was coming. I could feel it. Like I know this team pretty well by now. I had a feeling they were going to lose yesterday, but I had the Habs in 6. I think they could do a number on Buffalo. I like the way these two teams match up. It's going to be a really, really good series. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo wins this one.
But let me ask
really
you,
good team.
Of all the people at the Sick Podcast who follow the Habs and made predictions, did anybody else predict the Sabres, or it's all Habs?
As far as I know, no one picked Buffalo.
Oh,
but
okay.
Maybe some collaborators on Tony's show. I don't know.
Yeah.
He hasn't really asked many predictions.
Yeah.
I know Tony.
Well, I told him Buffalo in 6
well.
yesterday. I told him Buffalo in 6 yesterday. So who knows? Maybe it's more like not wishful thinking, I would say, but it's more like an emotional pick on the part of because when you root for a team, you don't see that team with the same eyes. I find.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll see. Listen, we're gonna keep breaking down that series as it goes along, but there are other series in the NHL going on that we need to talk about. The other one in the East, Carolina, Philadelphia. There you go. Carolina's up 2-0. Do the Flyers have a chance, Snake?
Look, I know the Flyers don't have playoff experience, and I know Carolina had the best record in the Eastern Conference. And I really thought that Philadelphia had a chance to make it close. Doesn't seem like it's going to be the case unless they win both games in Philly. I told you I'm not sold on Carolina, but they keep winning and winning and winning.
Yeah.
They never lose. I'm just not sold in the sense that it's not a team that I love watching.
No,
but they keep winning. They had the best record. And Philly is, they beat Pittsburgh. It's not like they beat, Montreal or Buffalo or Tampa so it's probably the end of the line for Philly. But again, for them, good run. Daniel Brière will be able to see, the missing ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Philly lacks probably more talented players up front and on defense, but they have a good work ethic. They have a good system. I find that they play the game very well. They just need a little bit more talent.
Yeah, center depth. Actually, top end center
Yeah, I'm okay with
they need
Dvorak, but
most.
I mean, he's not a number one center.
Well, yeah, let's be honest here. That's oof. But yeah, no, look, congrats to the Flyers on making it this far, but the odds were against them, of course,
Yeah.
against Carolina, and we're seeing why. Colorado, Minnesota. Many people thought this could be a really tight series. Minnesota, like they're a good team. They took care of business against Dallas, but it's all Colorado right now. Actually, it's all Nathan McKinnon right now. Oh boy, that guy's incredible.
It's a juggernaut.
Yeah.
Colorado is a juggernaut. My pick at the beginning of the season to win the cup. I'm not budging. I think this is an exceptional team. It's in the salary cap era. It's one of the best constructed team that you can put together. It has everything. That team has everything. And so who knows who they're going to face in the finals, because I do think they're going to reach the finals. I don't think Vegas or Anaheim will take them down. So, but they might lose a game in Minnesota, because you have to respect Minnesota. They have a good team. Look, they scored 6 goals the other night. The only problem is they give up 9 in a very crazy game. They even gave up 14 goals in 2 games. That's way too much. They switched goalies yesterday. Was it the good move? I don't know. But nevertheless, Minnesota took a gamble. They were in a strong division with Dallas and Colorado. Yeah. They still decided to make all these moves. They went pretty much all in. And it's too bad they had to face Colorado in round 2. But that's it. And I know, because I think I mentioned this on the show, but I spoke with Mark Hunter about a month ago, and Mark Hunter is the general manager for the London Knights. And the London Knights they always go all in. They always try to win. And I asked him why he didn't move this year, and he said, "Look, there were too many strong teams this year. It wasn't worth it." And I think in the case of Minnesota, they gambled, and that's what's happening.
That's it. Yeah. Look, it's also, I kind of feel bad for them in a sense, because they finished 7th in the NHL this season. Their reward for that was playing the third seed in Dallas Stars in the first round. Hey, they get through them. Here's your reward for the second round, the top team in the league. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the Montreal Canadiens finished 6th in the league. The reward for that? Oh, here's 5th place Tampa Bay in the first round. Oh, and you beat them. Congratulations. You're facing the 4th place team, Buffalo, in the second, right? Whereas in the West, the Vegas Golden Knights finished 13th in the league, and the Anaheim Ducks finished 18th.
Yeah. Look, in a 1 versus 8 or 1 versus 16 system, I know that in a 1 versus 8 system, the Habs would have faced Ottawa in the first round. Really? It would have been Ottawa. If you look at the standings, 1 versus 8, I think it would have been Ottawa.
So it would have been Carolina against Philly. There you go. It
Yeah,
would have been Buffalo against Pittsburgh, Tampa, Ottawa, Montreal, Boston.
Oh, Boston. Okay.
Yeah, I think they finished 1 point ahead of Ottawa.
I respect Boston's work ethic, but I think the Habs would have won.
Exactly.
So, but look, that's the system. So it's at some point, you know what? You have to beat the best teams. I think in terms of revenues for Minnesota, it would have been better if they had faced Colorado, let's say, in the conference finals, because you get more games. I think the bottom line of those teams is affected. But just in terms of winning the cup, you have to beat the best teams. Whether it be in the finals or in the first round, you have to win.
For the Habs specifically now, to face the Lightning and the Sabres in the playoffs is such a great learning experience, no matter how you look at it. Like, you're facing off against 2 contending teams. It's not just, they're pretty good, they made the playoffs. These teams, both of them, could have aspired to the Stanley Cup, not Tampa anymore. But listen, the playoff format has been debated for a long time. I think I'm pretty clear on where I stand on that. I'm of the opinion that every series should get better and more intense as the playoffs go on. shouldn't be the main event in the first round and then fizzle out near the end. But listen, that's
I
just
think we'll
me.
need another commissioner for this to change.
I
And I
agree.
know the owners have the final say, but look, Gary Bettman carries a lot of weight. He's been there for over 30 years. The guys have made a lot of money since he arrived. I think we'll need a new commissioner. Maybe Bill Daly or someone else would be more flexible.
Time will tell. However, we're stuck with this format for now, so we have to talk about the only other series that we have yet to talk about. Vegas, Anaheim, 1-1. Anaheim ties it last night. So who's your favorite coming out of this one?
Vegas was not their usual self yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And but so it's hard to tell in which direction this series is going to go, because they really beat Anaheim fair and square in the first game. They were not just themselves yesterday,
except for the ice.
Yeah, exactly. I had Vegas at the beginning of the series because I don't really trust Lucas Dostal, although he was good yesterday. Again, it's predicting goaltending performances, but it's a silly game. However, what struck me is that Mason McTavish was left on the press box yesterday. He didn't play. Joel Kenville left him off the roster. And am I surprised? No. I think McTavish had a terrible season considering the expectations and considering how old he is and how experienced he is at the same time. It was supposed to be a breakout year for him. There was a lot of depth at center in Anaheim, so he should have taken advantage of it, and he didn't. And he signed a new contract. It took a while before they signed him. I don't know. If I were Pat Verbeek, I would consider trading him. But how is his value now compared with last year? I think if he had traded him last summer, he probably would have gotten more than he would now. Although McTavish is under contract. Like I say, I was very disappointed, especially when I went to see them for 3 games. I didn't see McTavish, and I'm like, is he playing tonight? And it was like that the whole season. So no surprise that he was taken off the roster. Anaheim won. Will he come back in game 3? Who knows? They won. Coaches have a tendency to not change a winning lineup.
Yeah.
But it's Anaheim, and hockey is obviously not the number one sport in the area. But can you imagine the equivalent of a Mason McTavish being left in the stands, in Montreal or Toronto or Edmonton? That would have been crazy.
3rd overall pick.
Yeah.
That's it's an unfortunate situation, but look, the Ducks won. So I think you're right there. They're going to stick with the same lineup. And in the playoffs, I mean, it's what can you get? What can you do for me? Right? It's not, well, you were drafted 3rd overall, so I guess we'll play you. Mm-hmm. It's no, how are you performing on the ice? If you're not, you're going to sit. Like it's do or die, literally. So
exactly.
Listen, credit to the Ducks. They get back in this series as 1-1. I haven't been sold on Vegas since the start of the season. Honestly, no. I don't think they're going to do much damage if they move on. But yet again, and look, I want to give credit to one guy who might have been watching Trust the Process. Mitch Marner was pretty good so far.
Yeah, pretty good. I know. Which is, and he was not a playoff performer in the past. He was, that's probably one of the reasons why Toronto let him go last summer. And he was a scapegoat for the Leafs' lack of success in the playoffs. Look, the Leafs were only playing 1 series per year. So maybe it was a small sample. Had they gone further, like reached the conference finals, maybe Marner would have been good. Because I think we talked about it on Monday, how from one series to the other, it's not always the same players who perform and those who don't perform. But look, he's gone. Maybe Vegas, being a bigger team, maybe he has more space to operate. Because it is, and in Toronto, I don't know, it was kind of a soft team, I would say. We'll talk a lot about the Leafs later on in the podcast anyway.
Yeah, well, I think we'll cover that team pretty well for whatever reason may be. nothing happened this week at all.
No.
Yeah, I think that about covers it for the NHL. But quickly on the AHL playoffs now, the Laval Rocket playing against the Marlies force a game 5 Saturday afternoon at Place Bell. They win 4-0, a convincing win in Toronto. Very convincing performance by Capo Kakkonen, who was not that great in game 3 there. So good on him, bounced back. The team takes it back to Laval. Samuel Blais, he doesn't belong in the AHL, but he's like that kind of tweener where, in the NHL, it's like, he's fine. And then in the AHL, he's too good. So,
they call it, in baseball terms, they call it a quadruple A player.
That's it.
A guy who's too strong for triple A, not strong enough to be a regular in Major League. But you know what? I don't know. Blais on the fourth line, why not? Anyway, that's another debate.
Yeah.
As for the Rocket, this has been a strange series because depending on the game, you could say, okay, series over, Laval's too good, or series over, Toronto's too good.
It's so weird, yeah.
It's going to be a toss-up. They play Laval, and they moved the game to Saturday afternoon.
Good call.
In order not to play at the same time as the Habs. So I don't understand why last week there was a game, they didn't move it, and there was a concert scheduled in Laval. Now this time, there's no concert, but they decide to move it to not be against the Habs. Whichever way, it's going to be a packed house. I think great atmosphere in Laval. And, for the sake of Reinbacher and other prospects, let's hope Laval plays another series. More experience for the kids.
Yeah, we don't know if Reinbacher is going to be eligible to play in Game 5. Got dinged up there in Game 4, so hopefully everything is good there. But the players that we were kind of hoping would perform so far mostly have. Owen Beck has been good. Florian Jacquet has been good. David Reinbacher, in the time that he has played, has been good. So it's encouraging stuff, and hopefully they can pursue the playoffs a little longer there. On to the CHL playoffs now, because it's finals time. Let's bring up the board. Kitchener-Barrie. Kitchener takes a 1-0 lead in that series. It's Moncton-Chicoutimi, 0-0 there, and Prince Albert against Everett in the WHL. Where do you want to start, Snake?
Well, I'm going to start with the Ontario Hockey League. To me, it was a shocker that
Brantford
didn't make it.
Wow.
They were leading the series. They were a superior team to the Barrie Colts, on paper at least. It's a shocker, and I think it makes the final series less interesting. This is the one of the three. This is the one I'm the least interested in, because I would have liked to see Brantford for another run, to see Callum Malhotra, who's probably going to be a top 5 pick in next June, in the draft next June. And so I think Kitchener will win. Moncton-Chicoutimi. Chicoutimi hasn't won the championship in 32 years. And it's interesting because coach GM Yannick Jean was a player back then for Chicoutimi when they won. So that's quite a while. That's quite a while ago. I think this series is a toss-up. Some will favor Moncton because they are a bigger team. And some will favor Chicoutimi because they're a little bit more talented and they have a great defense core. Again, to me, this is a tough one to predict. Yesterday, I think Stéphane Leroux mentioned on Twitter that Chicoutimi had sold playoff tickets in 12 minutes.
Wow.
And that's for junior hockey.
Very nice.
Well, for those who want to watch those series, TSN and RDS, TSN will be broadcasting all of them. I think RDS is broadcasting the French, the Quebec one. Not sure, but anyway, it's easy to find these series if you want to watch them in between Habs games. And in the Western Conference, it's worth watching for Everett. Landon Dupont. Landon Dupont is a contender to be the number one pick next year. The odds-on favorite right now. And I hope they reach the Memorial Cup. It should be fun. So either Moncton or Chicoutimi with Everett and Kitchener and Kelowna, the host team. It should be a good Memorial Cup this year. Speaking of Kelowna, they had the number one draft pick in the WHL draft yesterday. And the WHL, contrary to Quebec and Ontario, they choose player a year before. So these guys only completed their 14-year-old season and not their 15-year-old season. And Maddox Dano is the number one pick. And he's a tremendous offensive talent. Should be interesting to see what he does. Is he going to play next year in the WHL? He doesn't have exceptional status, but rules probably will allow him to play half the games, just the way Maddox Schultz did this season for the Regina Pats. Look, it's way ahead of time to predict Daniel's future. By the way, his name is not Maddox; it's Madden. I was thinking of,
and he's not related to Phil.
He's not related to Phil because it's not spelled the same way. It's Daneault. It's hard to predict, but if you look at the past drafts in the WHL, most of the guys who were picked number one, although they were picked number one at age 14, reached the NHL and were good players. For example, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Connor Bedard, Caden Gooley. So the number one pick in the WHL. Although these guys are being evaluated at the age of 14, are still highly talented and most likely will make it to the NHL.
Yeah, and Landon Dupont,
Landon Dupont also was
17 points in 13 playoff games as a defenseman. Let me remind everybody, 16-year-old defenseman. Yeah. Ridiculous. Some team is going to get very lucky next season. It's not, however, going to be the Toronto Maple Leafs because they have forfeited their pick for the next 2 years. However, they will be picking first in this year's draft.
Yeah, and they made it very complicated because now they owe Philadelphia and Boston and the number one pick. And it's very complicated as to what they're going to do with this. Because I think if the pick is outside of the top 10, it goes to Boston, and then Philly gets 2028. There are other versions of the story telling us that they will choose who they send the pick to next year. Which means that imagine if they have a top 10 pick again. Let's say a number 3, a number 4, a number 5. They could have Boston and Philadelphia bidding for it.
What a mess. All that for Brandon Carlo and Scott Lawton. Are you kidding me?
Yes. Are you kidding me? That's amazing. But look, they got lucky. And I'm not going to get into the fact that, it was rigged and everything. Because, look, every lottery, whether it be the NBA, they started in 1985 in the NBA. There's always a reason to say that it's rigged. If it's really a team with no future in the city or that might be moving. Remember, like the Arizona Coyotes, if they had won, let's say, the Matthews lottery, they would have said, oh, it's rigged because Matthews is from Arizona and Arizona is struggling. If it's Toronto, well, it's rigged because it's Toronto. If it's Montreal, like in 2022, well, it's rigged because it's the Habs. Look, there's always a reason. But Connor McDavid went to Edmonton, and I don't think that was the NHL's wish at the time. So the idea now, I like discussing facts, and the fact is, Toronto got the number one pick. Now,
that's it.
We have a great mailbag question about it today, and I will elaborate a little bit more about what's ahead for Toronto because it might be a Trojan horse. That number one pick. It might be a Trojan horse in terms of their aspirations to win the cup within the next 10 years. Although now, they had a small parade, I think, in Toronto on because of Gavin McKenna's reputation.
Yeah.
And I'm really saying Gavin McKenna's reputation, because right now I like McKenna, but I don't think his reputation. I don't think his play matches his reputation.
Interesting.
A couple of years
Very
ago, he was being compared, to the Bedars and the
McDavid,
McDavids and the Celebrinis. Now, look, he's the likely number one pick. That's all. But if you want to see the glass half empty, he's a 5'11" winger who plays on the periphery. That's the glass half empty. But there's also the glass half full, saying that, he has tremendous hands, tremendous vision. He's a great passer, and he could be an 80, 90-point guy in the NHL, which is not something to, which is, something that every team needs. Is that what Toronto needs? We'll talk about it later.
Okay. You want to talk about it now?
No, I want to talk about the Sharks.
Absolutely. Okay.
The Sharks.
So we'll bring it back to the Leafs in a few.
Yeah.
But right now,
with the mailbag, and I
Sharks,
also have a take about McKenna. So yeah.
The San Jose Sharks, who were supposed to be picking 9th, they're picking in the top 2 for the 3rd year in a row. Look, the last 2 years, they finished dead last. They finished dead last again, and they actually slipped down last year because the Islanders moved up to take Schaefer, right? But they ultimately did win the lottery for the 2nd pick, even though they had the best odds. This year, however, they were supposed to be picking 9th. So they shoot up to 2nd in a draft where the top 2 is pretty enticing. Oh, man.
What happens,
richer snake.
Yeah, I think, as you know, I hate lotteries. I hate it with a passion. But I'm glad for the Sharks for one reason, because last year they were supposed to get Matthew Schaefer had there been no lottery. They had the best odds. They finished last. So it's kind of a compensation. But, do I prefer Michael Misa and whoever they're going to take at number 2 to Matthew Schaefer? The answer is no. Matthew Schaefer is with Macklin Celebrini would have been a duo for the ages. But good for them. They got this. Just a clarification. I read sometimes I read the comment sections and articles, and a lot of people think that the Sharks have won the lotteries 3 years in a row. They haven't. Mm-hmm. The way it works is that you cannot win the lottery more than twice in a parentheses of 5 years. So far, the Sharks have only won one lottery. It's last Monday. Macklin Celebrini, they had finished last. So they didn't move up.
No.
Last year, they finished last. Yeah, they got the 2nd pick. They actually moved down. So what is considered winning a lottery is actually when the balls pop up and they see your number. That's what it means. But if you don't climb up, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter. You don't win lottery. The Habs, when they got Juraj Slafkovsky, they had finished last in the standings. They did not win the lottery. So some folks thought that, they're not going to be eligible within the next 5 years, more than twice. No, the Habs have not won any lotteries. Well, they're not going to go back in the lottery for a while. But I think you get the point. So San Jose officially has won one lottery. So next year, they could actually get Landon DuPont. But they won't, because I think they're going to be much better. Not because of the player they picked, but because right now Mike Greer has to speed it up now a little bit. I mean, I'm not talking about making foolish moves and give him a 7-year contract to a 32-year-old washed up free agent. But I think now he has to think trades. He has to think how to make the team more well-rounded. And his defense score over the last few years was just a patch-up jobs. He would just grab any free agent on a 1-year contract, the Nick Lettys and the John Klingbergs. You cannot do that anymore. Now, what are their needs? I think it's they need a number one defenseman. Chase Reed would be the man. Will they go for Chase Reed, or will they go for Ivar Sternberg? Sternberg would be a fantastic complement to Celebrini. He is not a high-end player, but he's hardworking. He's not big, but he's very strong, and it would be a perfect complement on the Celebrini line. But that the Sharks won't win necessarily with Sam Dickinson as their number one guy. He should be a number 2 or a number 3, and maybe Chase Reed is the candidate. Keenan Verhoff is also talked about. I like him as a solid minute muncher, but I'm not sure of his offensive potential to be the number 2 pick overall. It'll be interesting to see what they do because I think the draft starts there, not because McKenna will necessarily be the best player, but it's because it's like Toronto has no choice.
They have no choice. People already have the McKenna jersey in Toronto.
Yeah, but remember, people had Shayne Wright jerseys in Montreal.
But that one, yeah, I mean...
No, but I know it's not McKenna, but...
fair.
Anyway, I'm going to talk about it later in the podcast. As for the rest, I don't think Vancouver is a loser, loses that much because they're going to get a very good player at number 3. And you can expect it could be Reed, it could be Stenberg. Maybe Stenberg will slip to Chicago at number 4. Who knows? Oof. If I don't think so, but who knows? Depending on who's going to be picked. A lot of defensemen are going to be drafted in the top 10. Some of them will be good. Some of them will bomb. And I think for a chief scout picking a defenseman, let's say at number 4 or 3, 4, or 5, or even number 2, if San Jose does, you better get the right guy because you're gonna be reminded for years and years and years that if you pick Chase Reed and Verhoff becomes better, hey, why don't you pick Verhoff? Or why don't you pick Daxon Rudolph? Daxon Rudolph, by the way, who's going to be in the finals for Prince Albert against Everett. So it's an opportunity to see another top 10 pick. So that's my take on the lottery. Chicago will add a great prospect again. Again, they'll have to make a choice. Do they take a Malhotra, let's say, to surround Bedard better? Kellen Malhotra. Do they go for a defenseman because Lev Shunov, I don't think is going to be their number 1 guy. So to me, it was kind of a wasted number 2 pick overall on this guy. Not that he's not going to be good, but he's not going to be worthy of the number 2 pick, especially, with Seneca, Demidov right behind. Tricky year for everybody, including Toronto. Very tricky year. And because this is a kind of draft where I wouldn't be surprised if the best player ended up being the guy being chosen 9th overall. We don't know.
Snake, this kind of draft gives me heavy trade vibes. Okay. I would not be shocked whatsoever if we see trades within the top 5.
Okay.
Do you think that could happen? Could the Toronto Maple Leafs or most likely the San Jose Sharks possibly move down? Let's say the Sharks have identified a defenseman that they know they want to pick. Could they actually move down? Let's say with the Vancouver Canucks, the Canucks move up to 2nd. They take Stenberg. San Jose gets assets on top of getting their defenseman at 3. Could that possibly happen, you think?
I think every year it's a fun discussion to have because it does happen in the NFL quite a bit.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. The NHL, when was the last time a top 5 pick was traded like this? 20 years, I think. Teams are very being very conservative because although it's appealing to do what you said, like, hey, let's trade down from 2 to 4. We'll get, because whether we get Chase Reed or Stenberg or whoever, we don't mind, or Malhotra, and because they're all at the same level in our book, let's get assets. Well, I think if San Jose feels that way, there's a lot of teams that feel that way. If you and I feel that way, a lot of teams feel that way, and they're thinking, okay, well, why would I move up? Unless you're really, really obsessed with a player, the way John Chayka was obsessed with Barrett Hayton. Okay, unless you're really obsessed with a player. And I remember in 1993, the Alexandre Daigle draft. Chris Pronger went number 2. Chris Pronger became a Hall of Famer. But at the time, San Jose had the number 2 pick, ironically. And they were a brand new team. They only had 2 years. They had only been played for 2 years. They were a horrible expansion team, which was the norm at the time because the rules were different. And they passed on Pronger and they moved down to number 6 because their GM was obsessed with a guy named Viktor Kozlov. Kozlov, I can't say had he played for a while, but he didn't have like a superstar career. But they moved down from 2 to 6 and they passed on Chris Pronger. So you imagine the Sharks with Chris Pronger in 1993. The whole history of the franchise would have changed.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they would have won the cup. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying that everything would have changed. Maybe they don't get Patrick Marleau at number 2 in 97 because they would not have been that bad with Pronger. So it's all this to say that this is the type of thing that does not happen anymore unless, like I say, a team is really looking for, okay, we really want Stenberg. We really want Chase Reed. Then the Sharks could get offers. And again, if you move down and you take the risk of not of passing on a player who's going to be excellent, and you move down to number 5, let's say, what are you getting in return?
That's it. You got to get some assets to move down.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be a mass return because the team picking at number 5 will say, okay, I either get Malhotra, Stenberg, Chase Reed, McKenna, or let's say Keenan Verhoff. And I'm probably not going to get McKenna. So either of the other 4 guys, I'm fine. So why would I overpay to make sure that I get this player or that player at number 2? I think this is the kind of thing that would happen in a draft, like when you had, let's say, McDavid and Eichel. Jack Eichel at number 2. Okay, Jack Eichel would have been the number 1 pick in probably at least 40 of the other 50 drafts in the history of the NHL.
Yeah.
But he just so happened to be, the year that McDavid was picked. And that's when you could have seen movement because there was a huge difference between the number 2 pick and the number 3 pick. Arizona got Dylan Strome, who ended up being a good player, but not in Arizona. And Toronto got Mitch Marner, which was pretty good. But really, Arizona passed on Mitch Marner when you think about it. But there would have been a huge difference. I think if you ask Arizona and you had told Arizona, well, what do you want to give me for the number 2 pick? I think they would have given quite a bit to get Jack Eichel. It's not going to be the case this year. Could there be trades? Yes. But will it be significant? My guess is no.
Most likely. But it's fun to talk about anyways.
Yeah, of course.
The possibilities and look, it would add up. It would add up, but unlikely, I think, is the correct determination here. Snake, before we move on, a quick word from our partners here at the Sick Podcast that bring you this show. Starting off with a shout out to Cheapest T-shirts. If you're looking for the cheapest prices on wholesale apparel in all of Canada, you will find them at cheapesttshirts.ca. They are proudly Canadian and trusted by thousands of customers from coast to coast. They deliver unbeatable value every day. You'll always get the cheapest prices plus same-day shipping and even next-day delivery, so your order arrives fast. You can enjoy free shipping on larger orders and a simple, easy-to-use website that makes online ordering a breeze. Get the cheapest deals in Canada today at cheapesttshirts.ca. And, of course, a shout-out to our friends at Betway, where you can get a deposit matchup bonus up to $300 on your first deposit. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. The offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. The offer is not available in Ontario. You must be 18 years or older. Please play responsibly. With that, it's time for Snake's Hot Take. So we already teased the topic a little bit. Pertains to the potential first overall pick.
Yeah, Gavin McKenna. A brief preamble for those who are watching the podcast for the first time, who or those who don't watch my podcast in French. Ever since Gavin McKenna got to the WHL, he was a really an all-time favorite prospect of mine. Mm-hmm. He reached the WHL. He played some games when he was 14 years old. He got 4 assists in his first game ever. And that was in 2022, if I recall. And I really thought at the time that this guy had the ability to make plays at high speed. And to me, at the same age, he was a notch below Connor McDavid, because you can't beat Connor McDavid as probably the best prospect of all time. Mm-hmm. But over the years, he was great. He scored a lot of points. And last year, I saw him at the Memorial Cup in person, saw him 5 games. And he left me wanting for more. Why? Look, he had great vision, great passer, a very good shot, a very good skater. Not an elite skater, but a very good skater. However, he didn't get into traffic. And to me, in today's NHL, where most goals are scored within, 10 feet of the net, usually, you have to be able to put yourself in a position where you can make plays when there's a lot of traffic around you. And he always stayed on the wall, on the periphery. So yes, from that point of view, you can make some very good passes. You can feed your line mates well. Patrick Kane, to an extent, never really got his hands dirty, but he was probably the best periphery player of the last 20 years.
Yeah.
But Patrick Kane was not, he was stronger, I would say, than Gavin McKenna is right now. So over the last few months, I've been pondering, should McKenna go first? Is he really going to be the best player in the draft? Historically, the guy chosen number 1 becomes the best player in the draft 50% of the time. That's kind of a statistical fact, let's say. So, the McDavids, the Austin Matthews, Guy Lafleur, Mario Lemieux, all these guys have become the best player in the draft. But, there were also players who were good, but not necessarily the best player in the draft. Think Taylor Hall, for instance. Mm-hmm. And there were bombs, like Neil Yakupov, which is rare, but it does happen. So, for a McKinnon, you have an Aaron Ekblad, who's a good player, but did not become the best player in the draft. Same with Nico Hischier. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Cale Makar was obviously the best player in the draft, but Nico Hischier is a very, very good hockey player. So I was wondering now, where will McKenna stand? Will he be closer to Hischier, or will he be closer to being the best player in the draft by far? Luckily for McKenna, there's no clear-cut guy or guys that you can say, well, yeah, this guy's going to be better than McKenna. Let's pick him. Okay? And I go back to 2022. Shayne Wright was supposedly the top player in the draft because we had been waiting for him for years, 3 years to be precise. And the Habs went against the flow by not picking him. And I think they had to have a lot of guts. Gorton and Hughes were brand new. managers in Montreal. So, yeah, in a sense, they had a 5-year contract. They knew that, they were not going to be fired the next year. But still, it would have been very easy to pick the crowd pleaser. The draft was in Montreal also. Yeah. And this year, the draft is in Buffalo, very close to Toronto. So lots of people from Toronto will attend. Now, here's my take on it. Why would a team like Toronto, if they don't think that Gavin McKenna is going to be the best player, if they have doubts, why would they take McKenna just because the crowd wants them to take McKenna? What is this thing about just taking a guy because he's been the consensus best player for years and years and years? Who cares about how he was at 15? What matters is he is now and what it's going to be. And I know they are in the entertainment business. You have to sell tickets. But you know what? It's like July 1st. You make a big splash. You sign a bunch of free agents. Everybody's happy. You sell a few more tickets. But then come November, if your team is 3-5, why did they spend so much money on these contracts? And then a year later, the contracts you've given to those players come up on the list of the worst contracts in the National Hockey League. How many times have we seen this?
Every year.
Every year there is a team, every sport, baseball, football, basketball, every team that there's a year that someone makes a big splash in free agency, and usually those teams don't work out. Now, for the draft, it's not a one-year thing. It's a long-term project. But what if Gavin McKenna and Toronto right now, they already think that they're going to get better with McKenna. McKenna's impact in his first season will be minimal. Macklin Celebrini last year was a good rookie, but his impact was minimal. Ivan Demidov this year was a good rookie. He had 62 points. This is what you and I were talking about, 60, 65 points. But his impact was, quite minimal if you compare with, Dobesh and Suzuki and Hudson and Caulfield. And that's normal. They're rookies.
To be expected.
They are rookies. So why would Gavin McKenna necessarily make Toronto that much of a better team next year? And if he doesn't, the problem is, instead of saying what we just said, fans will start screaming that they made the wrong choice, especially if there's another guy who's more NHL ready, who is a better player in year one. Let's say a Sternberg, for instance. Sternberg, is in my book, is more NHL ready than McKenna. Will he be better than McKenna in the long run? I don't know. Will he get more points than McKenna? I don't think so. But it just goes like, who cares? Who cares what the consistency? Who cares what so-and-so prospect analyst says? From, The Athletic or ESPN or TSN or Hockey News or whatever. Who cares what they think? Who cares what I think? Who cares what the fans think?
Certain owners, I would say, actually.
Pardon me?
Certain owners, they want to save face, right? The owners that overstep their duties, right? Pierre Maguire says it best, right? Owners need to own, managers need to manage, coaches need to coach, players need to play, right? When the owners meddle into the management, that's when you see a lot of issues, right? And with Toronto specifically, look, MLSE and Keith Pelly don't have a good track record. So I think that's where there could be a pretty big issue.
What I would be curious to know is what kind of due diligence they will make, or if their mind is already made up. Because remember, in 2012, it's well documented that the scouts wanted Ryan Murray in Edmonton, and the owner said, "I want Nail Yakupov." Okay, Murray would not have been a very good pick either. But the point is, the owner went with what he heard on TV. Remember, fail for Nail, and Yakupov was supposed to be a star.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
Not necessarily a superstar, but a star. Nail Yakupov was supposed to be a perennial 40-goal scorer that you cannot pass on him. You had to take Nail Yakupov. And the owner is thinking, well, Nail Yakupov, that's sexier than Ryan Murray. Because Ryan Murray was a defensive defenseman. Anyway, the best players from that draft were not even those two guys. But you get, I think you get my point. So I'm curious to see John Chayka and Sundin, but especially John Chayka, because he's been a GM before. He knows how it works. Is he going to do due diligence, or today you're just celebrating, hey, guys, we're getting McKenna. Let's get the jerseys done. Or is he going to dig into it like Stenberg and like Mike Greer is going to do? Because Mike Greer has no choice. And I think it's a blessing in disguise for Mike Greer that he didn't get Gavin McKenna. Or the number one.
This is why I asked you if it was better to get the second overall pick in this year's draft.
Well, I don't know if it's better, but I think for San Jose, it is better because the San Jose need another like smallish forward as good as he is. San Jose needs either a tough guy like Stenberg who can play or a defenseman. If you get the number one pick, there's going to be a lot of pressure. Hey, Celebrini and McKenna. And by the way, trade for McDavid also. I don't know if you've seen those crazy, posts or rumors on the internet about McDavid joining Celebrini.
We're going to do that as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We
Later
will.
this summer,
will at some point. Yeah, we will at some point. So that's my take on the McKenna thing. I'm not saying he's not going to be the best player. I'm just saying that why is he being crowned today?
Yeah.
And I could bet the house that Toronto will pick McKenna.
Oh, of course.
I think it's a gimme. I think they've already called the jersey manufacturer and say, okay, get those jerseys ready.
Yeah. Look, it's I'm sure there's an actual term for it, whether it be like not confirmation bias, but when the mind of someone is made up a long ahead of time, it's hard to change it. Even if you bring up these facts, really, it's still going to be, well, the upside. Well, we know the upside is so high. Look, we're going to dive deep into the draft once the playoffs is over and we wind down into June, but Leafs fans need to keep an open mind here because he could be anyone.
Yeah, but it's more. I know it's more fun to as a Leafs fan to dream of McKenna than Chase Reed when you think about it.
Of course,
but
they need a defenseman. See, that's the thing. Like the Toronto Maple Leafs, look at their decor. I mean, give me a break. Like, do you think Morgan Riley and Oliver Ekman-Larsson can bring you a Stanley Cup?
Well, you know what? Then if you do what they did in 2002. With Rick Nash, Jay Bouwmeester, and Kari Lehtinen, the goaltender. Atlanta, Columbus, and what's the other team? Florida. They both each wanted a different player of those three. And the order was such that they might not get what they want. So they reorganized everything. Oh, if don't take this guy and I'll give you this. And anyway, it ended up that Columbus got Nash, Atlanta got the goalie, Lehkonen, and Florida got the defenseman, Bouwmeester. Okay, this is a very similar situation this year. So Vancouver probably wants McKenna more than San Jose. So maybe there could be some kind of a talks where, okay, McKenna, Vancouver gets the number one pick. Toronto gets the number 3. But San Jose doesn't take the player Toronto wants. Think about it. This is this is very similar to 2002. So let's say Toronto wants Chase Reed. Okay, well then Vancouver gets McKenna, San Jose passes on Chase Reed, and they take Stenberg, and Toronto gets Chase Reed, or vice versa. Will there be conversations? I don't know, but it happened 24 years ago.
Wow. Listen, this draft is going to be something else. I'm really excited to break it down with you. And we're going to be doing that this summer at Trust the Process. So make sure you're subscribed. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. We upload every Monday and Thursday. By now, I think everyone knows that, but I'll just remind everybody. With that being said, we're not just done quite yet. I told you guys this is going to be a big show, okay? We're not going to go an hour and a half like on Monday, but we still got some things to do. Let's go digging in the mailbag. Only one question today, but it's very on brand, on topic for what we were discussing. Louis David Rondeau is asking, question for the Snake. With the Leafs now in what looks like a constrained rebuild, missing the playoffs, lacking high-end prospects, and without multiple first-round picks in the coming years, do you think John Chayka is being put in a position where he's managing an almost unwinnable situation and could eventually become the fall guy for it? Louis, amazing question.
Yeah, it's a very good question. And, we could have talked about the Leafs and just ignored the question because obviously we were going to answer Louis David's question. But I wanted the question to be posted because I thought that it's such a great depiction of what's happening right now in Toronto.
Absolutely.
The thing is with the Leafs is that it could be a Trojan horse getting that number one pick. Because let's say they have to give away the pick to Boston, which, was very much possible. They would have kept at least either the 27th or the 28th pick. Because I know that next year it would have been top 10 protected. And then the one they're giving to Philadelphia and the 2028 would have been theirs. Would have been Philadelphia's. Anyway. Whichever way, they would have lost only one of the two picks in 27-28. So then you can start thinking, does Austin Matthews want to go? And if he wants to go, we can trade him. What about Nylander? We have a chance to start over. Maybe not right away because you don't necessarily want to give away the number one pick overall. Look, it was a tricky situation. I think we've analyzed all this recently. But at least it was clear that at some point they would be heading for a rebuild. Could be delayed by a couple of years, but now they can't, really. And will it work? Unfortunately, I don't think so. Because McKenna is not Celebrini. And now what they're going to do, they've kind of rejuvenated, Matthews, who's 29, and Nylander, who's like 30, and it's like, wow, guys, we got Gavin McKenna now, and that's going to be another weapon for you with Tavares, and we have Matthew Nyes and Easton Cowan, and no defense, but anyway, and so I think it's kind of an illusion that they're rebuilding on the fly or resetting on the fly. Mm-hmm. Those resets on the fly, they do not work to the extent that you're going to win the cup. I know that Washington is being shown as an example of a reset on the fly. They drafted very well. They went through the whole Ovechkin career by being competitive, and they didn't fall in the standings, a la San Jose or Chicago or whatever. Fine. But is Washington winning the cup? Is Washington a contender? No, they made the playoffs last year. They won a round. This year, they didn't make the playoffs. Next year, they might make the playoffs. But really, it's a middle of the pack team right now. So if you call this a successful reset on the fly, well, we don't have the same definition of a successful reset on the fly. These things don't work in terms of winning the Stanley Cup. Toronto is not going to win the Stanley Cup if they don't start over. Now, the other option is to see if they see Gavin McKenna as a building block. And I think he is a building block. Mm-hmm. Not a Celebrini type of building block, but he is a building block. Maybe they could still move on with that rebuild. Anyway, but the tricky part is now, the next two drafts, they don't have the pick. What if this pick is the number one overall again, or even number 3? Then it's a disaster, especially considering what they got in return, Carlo and Scott Laughton. So they're stuck. So you know what's going to happen? They're going to sign Darren Radish for $70 million this summer. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And they might trade Morgan Riley for something just to show that they're shuffling the deck. They're just going to be shuffling the deck, on defense. And maybe they'll go back up in the standings because, honestly, the way they ended the season it really smelled like tanking. I don't think Toronto is going to be that bad next year. But I don't think they're going to be very good either. But I don't think they're going to be that bad. So they're kind of going to save face, and they'll say, hey, look, we're only giving away the 14th pick to Philadelphia. So it's not a big deal. And the year after, well, we're only giving the 11th pick or 13th pick to Boston. It's not that bad. But in the long run, Matthews, Nylander either will leave or will age. And all these, and only McKenna will be left when you think about it. So you're going to have middle of the pack team with McKenna and signing free agents. So you're dealing the next Stanley Cup. Look, I'm born in 66. They won in 67. So it's been 59 years. It's probably going to reach 70 now.
You'd have to think. Unless a miracle happens, but yeah.
I'll be 71 years old maybe the next time Toronto has a chance to win the Cup. And I know if there are Leafs, I know there might be Leafs fans out there listening to us. And I'm not being pessimistic. I'm not being a Leafs hater at all because I really did like what they were doing in 2016. I really thought they were going to win a Cup or two. I was wrong. They didn't even reach the conference finals, which to me was quite shocking. I'm just analyzing this thing as maybe just maybe in the long run, the number one overall pick lottery win could be a Trojan horse.
Wow.
Now, to answer the question, will Chaika be the scapegoat? Of course he will.
Yeah,
considering his
an easy
reputation
one.
That is not very good right now, he won't get the benefit of the doubt.
Of course not. What a catastrophic press conference that they had. That was horrible. But no, I mean,
he can't win.
They're setting him up like a lamb for slaughter. It's
because if McKenna scores 120 points and Toronto becomes good, they're going to say, "Oh well, Chaika was just lucky."
Yeah, it's a lottery. It's a lottery.
It's a lottery. And if they don't do well, why did they hire this guy? He was bad in Arizona. So look, I don't know Chaika personally. I don't know if I should feel bad for him or not because still he has a very high-paying job, and there's only 32 of them in the world, and a lot of fans. I don't think we feel bad for him. No, because a lot of fans like me would love to have his job, but the point is, I think whatever he does right now, it's a lose-lose situation for him.
Absolutely, no, he's set up for slaughter. It's so predictable, But look. We're going to have to run through the motions here and see what happens. June 27th, I believe, is the draft. So we'll get a better answer here. And throughout the summer, what kind of moves they make. Darren Radish, I mean, look, that just makes too much sense. Of course, they're going to sign an overperforming player that, had a career year to 7-year, $8 million per year deal. It's so predictable.
10, 7 times 10. We'll see. Well, we're going to have a show on July 2nd. So
we are.
Keep the tape.
Yes, we are. Anyways, Snake, that'll do it for us today. As I mentioned, we're back on Monday again to talk mostly Habs, but we're also going to talk about whatever happens on the weekend. If any news comes out, whatever it may be, this is the place to be. Sick Podcast, trust the process. Simon the Snake Boivin. Anything else to add before we get out of here?
No, lots of stuff happening. Rocket game, Habs game, playoffs, CHL Finals. Lots to talk about on Monday.
What more could you ask for? Thank you to producer Jimmy back at Master Control. I'm producer Shayne. This has been another edition of the Sick Podcast. Trust the process. We'll see you on Monday. Take care.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, Trust the Process on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.